So lately I've been getting a lot of questions on how to break a fat loss plateau. And truth be told, there's hundreds of different tips, strategies, tactics, and things you can apply to break a fat loss plateau. And I was thinking about this a little bit, and I thought, why don't I just share one simple strategy that if you're currently in a fat loss plateau will help you break it. And if you're also someone who's just looking to be prepared for when that moment comes, when we do hit a plateau, that you know what to do. So in this video, I'm going to give you a simple strategy that you can apply immediately. Again, this is not a quick fix. Still, you need to take care of your whole diet and your whole exercise training and everything else. So this is going to be primarily focused on nutrition, but there's of course many moving parts when you're trying to get leaner, when you're trying to get down to 10% body fat or 12% body fat, that you really need to take into account. So there's no one single tip that's going to revolutionize everything, but you can take this and apply and start seeing results. And by the way, if you're new here, my name is Mario Tomic. If you'd like to learn more about exercise, nutrition, how to live a healthy lifestyle, and you love personal development, consider subscribing below. Also, make sure to hit that notification bell icon to get notified when new videos come out. And now let's dive into it. So the one strategy for breaking a fat loss plateau that I found super effective for myself and for my clients is something I call going through diet simplification. And what you're ultimately going to do is you're going to simplify your food choices. You're going to simplify your overall diet. And I'm going to run you through the process right now. So to take a step back, what really happens when you go into a fat loss phase is you first determine your caloric intake, you determine your macronutrient numbers, so you kind of have a rough idea what numbers you need to hit. But then you also realize, well, there's a lot of options. I can actually hit these macronutrient targets with a variety of different food choices. And what tends to happen over the course of a diet, we tend to complicate things. We tend to add more foods into the diet. We try to keep the diet as interesting as possible, so we don't want to end up with a boring diet. But what this ultimately does also is add something I call the complexity tax. And a complexity tax from a perspective of our nutrition, our fat loss goals, is that you're increasing the number of chances you can make errors. And to give you more perspective on this is that every food that you eat has a certain caloric amount. And even if you look at the nutrition label of that particular food, there's nutrition labels that can be about 8 to 18% off. So if you have dozens and dozens of different food choices, chances are that you think you're eating one amount of calories while you're eating a completely different amount of calories. And this can ultimately put you at a fat loss plateau while you were thinking that you're in a deficit, you're actually not in a deficit. And so by simplifying that, what you're actually doing is you're removing chances for you to make a mistake. You're reducing the number of errors that you can gather across a week, which will ultimately get you closer to your target caloric intake. And that will actually break the fat loss plateau. How far do you take this? Well, I recommend actually boiling it down to only a couple of choices per each macronutrient. So only about 2 to 3 choices per each macronutrient, your favorite choices, you go for that. And for variety's sake, you can still keep that variety when it comes to fruits and vegetables. So you're not really losing that much variety in terms of that, but you will definitely have to simplify your main 3 macronutrient. And what this does is a couple of amazing things. So first off, it makes the diet much easier to stick with because now you only have to worry about a couple of different foods. Imagine trying to solve a puzzle with 50 or 100 different pieces versus a puzzle that has only 8 or 10 pieces. It's much easier. And also what it does is that for you, it's much easier to plan the diet, it's much easier to shop for the diet, it's much easier to create those meals, and overall, the process is a lot less stressful. So instead of thinking about how to add more activity, like a lot of guys, including myself, I love to add, always like I think it's about adding. Let's add more cardio, let's do more HIIT interval training, let's add another weight training sessions, let's cut the calories more, let's do all that more and more and more. Well, how about doing less? In a sense of complexity. And by simplifying, that's exactly what you're doing. You're actually doing less, you're getting more results, you're actually gonna be a lot less stressed out, and the whole process is gonna be a lot more predictable. You can view your body as a system. So imagine your body is like a system and you have this input. And by reducing the complexity of the input, you will actually be able to have a more predictable output. Because as you vary your food choices, as you go through the week, you will also notice that the weight can fluctuate quite a lot. And when you simplify those food choices, what tends to happen, you get a lot more predictable fluctuations. So you still have some fluctuations, but they're a lot less drastic compared to the ones that when you have dozens of different food choices, because now the water weight fluctuations are not as hard. And it can be quite demoralizing, and this can be very demotivating when you step on the scale in the morning and you see you've gained a pound or two. Recently I've done a cut, and I've gained like 3 pounds actually being like a robot with my diet. Nothing has changed. I've been hitting everything perfectly fine. Step on the scale, gain weight. And the reason for that was that I just had to change my food choices because I didn't have one thing and I had to eat the another thing, and then bam, the weight has changed. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I was still losing body fat, but I just couldn't see the change because the water weight was still there. But by simplifying the diet, I could have actually avoided that, and I could have stuck with that, and I could actually have a very predictable pathway that I know, okay, this is going to happen in the future. So it gives you more trust in the journey, if that makes sense. And it can really simplify the whole journey for you as well. And just so you have to actually, at the end of the day, only worry about a couple of different things, and you can put more focus on your training. You can train a lot harder. You can, do different things in your life that you're busy as an individual. I understand you have a lot of different competing commitments. So this is really a good strategy as a way for you to move complexity out of the diet and at least have one thing less to worry about. So this is a strategy I highly recommend you check out because it's going to definitely help you break a fat loss plateau. Also, if you're interested in getting to 10% body fat, I'm going to leave a video here at the end that's going to help you on your journey to 10% body fat. So definitely check out that video. Also, if you're interested in working with me as your mentor and as your coach, I'm going to leave a link in the description below where you can find more details about that. And I will see you in that next video.